the work becomes you. You sell yourself this narrative that it's by any means necessary, and you become subconsciously like this sacrificial lamb, and your health, your family, your relationships, your social life, everything becomes secondary, or it did for me. Everything becomes secondary, and it's not sustainable, y'all.
Welcome to the What's Your Revolution show, a show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Corprew. What's good, revolutionaries? I hope all is well. You are doing your thing and you're sitting well and entrenched in your community. This is our 9th season, and I'll continue to say that, throughout. And as I talk to my good friend who you'll hear from in a second, like, what does it mean to do something for 9 years? The running joke is, this is the longest relationship that you've had with anyone, Charles. But yeah, exactly. 9 years is consistency. 9 years is belief
Yes.
in the brand and what you're providing and the impact that you're having on people and having on you, revolutionaries. You are my people. And I'm happy to be on this journey with you as you think about overthrowing your life, toppling over the mindsets and beliefs that have held you back. That's what revolution is. I think about what's going on in Iran and other places. Even the impetus for this happened in Tahrir Square back in Egypt in 2011. People said that they didn't want to live under the tyranny of their lives. And a lot of times, that's what we're doing to ourselves. We're living under the tyrannies that we've actually created in our heads. And oftentimes we have to overthrow that tyranny. And that's what revolution is: changing mindsets and beliefs and behaviors, attracting the right people, letting go of the wrong people, and bringing in those things that will allow you to reach the goals that you have for your life. We weren't put on this earth just to sit quietly. Our job is to make sure that every day we're etching off the garbage of our life and we're creating and living that new version. So I am wishing you well. And you always know that you can contact me, Charles, at whatsyourrevolution.com, and we can talk about your goals and how to answer and fulfill What's Your Revolution. So I'm happy. I'm happy because I get to do what I love today. I get to talk to one of my close friends and constant guest on the What's Your Revolution show, my dear brother, founder and CEO of Brothers Empowered to Teach, New Orleans native, right? And New Orleans favorite, Larry Irvin. What's good, my brother? How are you?
I'm well, Charles. Thank you for asking. Hope you're doing well, man. Always good to be here. We was talking a little bit in the green room, man. Big congrats for the 9 years, man. It's good to see your growth, your trajectory. Constant on an upward arrow. Feel good to be here, man. So let's get this conversation going, man. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me again. Always.
Yeah. Revolutionaries, if you haven't, go back and see some of the shows with Larry as he's gone through his progression as a CEO and founder of one of the prolific New Orleans nonprofits. I started my career, and you've heard me say this so many times, as a Black man in a classroom. And one of the joys of my life was teaching students and coaching baseball and being a part of a community of people, students, teachers, families, community members that became how we were educating students and lifting them up. But oftentimes I looked around myself, and it was just me, the only Black man in the building, the only Black man in the room, the only Black man standing up. And what Larry did was build an organization that was putting black men in places around the country. One, that they didn't feel alone, but they were also beacons of light and hope. Think about that when you walk into a school, you walk into a classroom. Oh, I got a black man as my teacher. It changes everything. Larry, look, brother, for those who haven't heard who Larry Irvin is and Brothers Empowered to Teach, just quickly tell them why you started Brothers Empowered to Teach.
Uh, Sort of serendipitous, but sometimes, Charles, they say sometimes you're called to do a certain thing, a certain mission. And I definitely, prior to doing the nonprofit work with my story, my criminal background, um, my record, it put a lot of barriers on me as far as opportunities. I went to LSU, graduated from LSU, communications, public address, rhetorical theory, journalism, the whole nine. But I had charges that affected, me trying to get a job and things of that
Yeah,
nature. And it really, that's why I say when I look at my entire journey, it was meant for me to be in this position, telling this story, doing this mission. So I just think all the stars were aligned for me. My mother was an educator in Jefferson Parish in Orleans, so I had a chance to see education from inside the storm, if you will. She was a teacher's teacher, so I had that influence, and she always pushed me to be an educator. I just didn't. I wasn't trying to hear that. As a young black man, I wanted to, like everybody else. I wanted to rap, play
play
sports,
ball.
play ball, right, or go into the streets, and I did all three. You know what I'm saying?
Mm, yeah,
But to answer the question, I was specifically tapped to tell a story. My story isn't unique. There's a lot of Larrys, but I just think, my personal story really laid the foundation with my mom and her, making academics and education such a big deal. Her being a teacher and laying that foundation for me academically and that positive foundation. And then I think the balance, the equilibrium of having, if you want to call it a street experience and balancing that identity crisis that a lot of black men in New Orleans, across the country in urban settings deal with as far as just, what am I supposed to be? Who am I? And seeing those affirmations in the neighborhood and the city and just grappling with that identity piece. And I think that was really the impetus and the foundation of the work. The spirit of the work was really trying to come in and redefine what success can look like for black men
yeah,
and start a
yeah,
conversation. Start a conversation that hasn't been really pushed to the forefront, and that's black men, being positive representations in the classroom for students.
yeah. And it's a beautiful thing when you see. I think about Mr. Johnson, who was a history teacher at Green Run High School and Revolutionaries. I talk about my beloved Green Run High School, this well
Yeah,
dressed black man. But the first educator that I got to see going out to work well dressed was my father. You know, principal, civil rights activist. Stalwart in the community who believed that grew up in the civil rights movement, uh, stoned and called all kinds of names, but said, "You know what? I'm going to stand up for my community and be out here in the throes of education because those that are coming behind me need this. They need to see this as you say that." And that was the staple work. You think about that, Larry. The staple work for us as a community was education. How do we
yep,
educate? Yeah. How do we educate our families? How do we educate our students?
yeah,
To ensure that they have a road that oftentimes had not been paved for our mothers and fathers and our family
yep,
members, and so they took on those mantles like your mother as educators to ensure that you and I had paths
yep,
that were a little bit more smoother than the ones that they had come up with.
yep.
Larry, I won't belabor this. Like Brothers Empowered to Teach, and I'm gonna say this, was successful.
Yes.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, because I
yes,
wanna I wanna get onto the other side of the conversation, revolutionaries.
yeah,
There was an emphasis on was successful.
yeah.
Um, talk about the overall impact that you had, And tell me how long, right? From beginning, from the beginning, what was the impact?
I think what we really did, looking back in retrospect, Charles, I think what we did with Brothers in Power to Teach was bring a conversation to the forefront in education and philanthropy, social media, just really bringing the conversation, and creating a space and a climate in the ecosystem in K-12 in education that just embrace male teachers, embrace the black male teachers, and really defining like what that looks like. Over the past 5 to 7 years, equity
Mhm.
has been the hot topic, right?
Yeah.
Particularly in education and making classrooms and education spaces more equitable for everybody. And I just think what Brothers in Power the Teacher was able to do was really paint a very clear picture and really lead the way, if I must say, as humbly as possible, as far as the storytelling, narrative creation, um, supplemented with the work. We did the work really well as far as from a technical aspect
Yeah.
and recruitment aspect. But I think the catalyst to that and the crux of that and the foundation of that, Charles, was us aside creating the fellowship and doing, placing over 200, young men
That's
in classrooms. I think we did a really good job of shifting the climate and shifting the narrative and making this conversation about black men entering the classroom more palatable and digestible for everybody who was involved in K-12 and giving everybody a different perspective. I think the storytelling aspect is one that is not uh, revered enough because we what we were dealing with, Charles, we're trying to bring black men into a space that hasn't been, they haven't been embraced in that space. We only represent 1% of the teachers field, 1.3% of the teachers field. So there's a lot of layers to that of why. But I think from a panoramic view, from a like a bird's eye view, what had to be done, we had to change the climate. I could have came with a million black men ready to enter classrooms. Because recruitment was really our strong suit. It was very easy for us to find black men who wanted to teach. That wasn't the issues. The issues was placement. The issues was, school leaders who have their own implicit biases and stereotypes and preconceived notions of black men. So there's a lot of layers and a lot of different stages to the work that we did. But I think that the soil, we had to create a certain soil
Yeah.
for the atmosphere to have this conversation, and that was sort of two driving two trains at one time. Obviously doing the work, the fellowship, and the training aspect of becoming an educator, but also that storytelling piece and getting people to understand why this is needed.
Yeah, yeah. Folks, I want to make sure that you go. One of the most viewed TED Talks in history is Larry talking about the work that he did at Brothers in Power to Teach. So make sure that you Google Larry Irvin's TED Talk. That's right. I've got a TED. This seems like this season will be, a series of TED Talks. I had Do- I had Dr. Aisha on the show earlier as well, and
Yeah,
that in itself is a tremendous accolade that you have the ability to stand on one of the most prominent stages in the world and talk about the work. Several million views of Larry
yeah,
Irvin talking about Brothers in Power to Teach and why it is necessary, still necessary, for
yeah,
us to
yeah,
send more Black men into the classroom. And so I appreciate you telling me about the success but we're at this juncture now that, Larry, the success and Brothers in Power to Teach, you decided to sunset something that was so successful. And
yeah,
and I want to talk about that because from a leadership perspective, because Sean Dove talks about, one of my good friends and prominent guests talked about that, is that we need our midwives to birth our ideas out into the world. But when our children, and I'm going to make this analogy, Larry, when our children grow up and they leave us, you see what I'm saying? You see where, and they leave us,
yeah,
we grieve.
Yeah.
And then we grieve our children and grow up and,
Yeah.
and we leave, and then we have to decide, Larry, what does it look like when our children are gone and we must move on?
That's a great
And
analogy, Charles.
yeah, and so I know that you're in this season. You're in this
Yeah.
season. So talk to me about the end of Brothers in Power to Teach and moving into this phase of what's next. Who is Larry Irvin? You know, the next season of Larry Irvin. What does that entail? But first, start with the end and the grief, the potential grief that I think that you are feeling or have felt
Yeah.
with your child growing up and moving on.
Whoo. Yeah. That's a great setup, Charles. I think that's a great analogy. And I've heard it before, but that's exactly where I am. I think I'm on the back end of grief and grieving. The sunsetting of the organization. You do something for 10 years, you birth something, like you said, you help to see it to, to good health, to great health, and then it's gone one
Yeah.
day, right? And that process for me, that's why I was, when we were talking in agreement before, like I had to just stop, Charles. I had to pause. That 10-year journey with Brothers in Power to Teach 12, if you consider the whole, the entire, from concept to implementation to full-fledged organization. Talking about a 12-year journey. Um, it was hard. It was hard to see it go. It was hard to make the decision, with the board and everybody around, because there's so much. We had so much impact. We affected so many young men. I think that was the hardest part for me, is the stories and the narratives of the young men that we placed in. Who would have never thought about education? Because we did a lot of conversion, and that was powerful. We took a lot of people who just weren't thinking about education at all and teaching, and never had that conversation, and exposed them to that. But um, the sunset, it was a big decision, a huge decision, one that I was reticent about, obviously. But I think for me, I had to be, and I really appreciate my board for doing this, and pushing me. I had to, they had to save me from myself,
Mm.
Charles.
What does that mean? They
Um,
had to save you from
yeah.
yourself.
So what it took, I think we got to a certain level with brothers that, looking at it from in retrospect, we were at 10 years, but the work was still, everything was still centered around me. I was the center of programming. I did the facilitation for our professional developments every month, coming up with that content. Also in this work, that connectivity is one that's sticky between me and the men. So
Mm.
I'm being a mentor, I'm being a big brother, I'm doing a facilitation, creating the content for the facilitation shows. I'm the figurehead, so I'm doing the fundraising, the traveling. I'm
All of
driving
the things.
marketing and branding. And we just weren't getting to a point to where the machine could run without Larry.
Mm.
Uh, it was just too Larry centric, and I think I definitely experienced a hyper version of burnout that I had been experiencing, probably starting with COVID.
Mm.
But I didn't know it. And what I mean by saying that, they had to save me from myself is that, like, I wouldn't have never stopped, even with the health issues, with funding slowing down majorly after Mackenzie, the landscape changing, the socio-political landscape changing, and just looking at my own personal situation and making a decision for Larry. It was time for me to step away and get a breather, man. I was beat down mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I didn't realize how much I was actually carrying, Charles, until it stopped.
Yeah.
Um, and the
Like this
clarity
weight,
that
like
I've
this
gotten,
monkey comes off your back.
yeah. And it was just time. I just think it ran its course. We had our success, but I think it was time for me to make a decision for myself, which was one that was hard to do, because everything else had been about the team and growing the organization and scaling and replicating, and how do we find more funding,
The
I was
stresses of
tapped out.
yeah, the stresses of nonprofit leadership.
The stress of that, and I just for a long time I feel like I had brought this to the folks, to my board, to the folks around me, my executive coaches, and I just feel like everybody, you get put in this position almost, Charles, to where it feels like you're becoming a martyr, a sacrificial lamb,
Wow.
and nobody really is hearing the human element. That's how I felt. Nobody was really hearing the human element and the human tax that it took for Brothers in Power to teach, to sustain, to keep going, to keep growing. I just felt like I was just expected to just perform under any circumstance.
Mm.
Um, Almost had to be perfect. And it was killing me, man. It was
Yeah.
killing me, Charles.
Do you feel like this perception of John Henryism in you? Larry, you're a statuesque black man, you know,
Yeah,
6'1", muscular, eloquent. There's a mixture of, how do I put this? Larry, you're cognac. You know what I'm saying? You
yeah,
know, there's a there's
yeah,
a there's a strength balance with a smoothness to
yeah,
you. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Do you also think underneath that, though, that balance between strength and smoothness and charisma is a John Henryism feeling? I've got to, this works through me because I know it works through.
That's it. That's it. Knowing you're like the driving force to a thing. And I definitely created a narrative in my head, Charles, that I have to, by any means necessary.
Mm,
Even if that means losing myself, even if that means losing my health, even if that means losing my mental stability, even if that means, financially, being in chaos. By any means necessary, I had to make sure this thing survived, and thrived. And there was a lot going on behind the scenes, man. A lot of storms, a lot of trials, tribulations, man. And I just, in retrospect, having sat still for some time now, the rest of 2025, the second half of the year, it was by far the best decision I've made personally and professionally, in the last 10 years, was to let this thing go.
right.
It was the best decision by far, by far.
I appreciate you saying that, and I want to get to the stillness in 1 second. But I would be remiss if I didn't. You casually threw out a name early on.
Yeah.
You said Mackenzie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Some of
Yeah.
some of us are not on first name, just casually throwing out Mackenzie. You know what I'm saying? And look, when we say McKinsey, it is not the consulting firm.
Mackenzie
You
Scott.
know,
Yeah.
it is not the consulting firm. You were fortunate enough to receive some of Mackenzie Scott's funding, and
Yep.
she's done some amazing work around the country with,
Yeah.
organizations that are led by folks that look like you and me.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so congratulations, one, to that,
Yep.
being able to say I've burst something out into the world, and then someone, and I hate to say this, but of financial significance, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, someone of financial significance has the ability to see my worth, see the worth of that, so congratulations to you. Um, you talk about, this grief aspect and making the decision to sunset the organization, and, nonprofit leaders, when something is your child,
Yeah.
and you're walking away from something that you built, and this is different because, we think that our children, they graduate and somebody else comes on and leads and mentors them.
Yeah.
Your child is gone. Your
Yeah.
child has run its course, and you said,
Yep.
and I want leaders to understand this, Larry, is that if you've run something and it's been successful, it's okay to walk away from it.
Man.
Like literally, it's okay, and I think that is the thing that you probably wrestle with for so long, is that how do I walk away from this? How do I just, I've been building this. I've built this brand. I'm Larry Irvin. I'm brothers and I'm associated. And this almost feels like a therapy call, Larry. And so I apologize.
It is on some levels. Trust me, it
Yeah.
is.
I think that I'm seeing something is that I'm Larry Irvin. Everybody, like when you say Larry Irvin, it is associated, it is synonymous with Brothers in Power to Teach,
Period.
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 And you develop an identity around that.
Period.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
develop an identity around that, Larry. And then what do you do? Because there's a loss of identity. I remember when I left Loyola, I had built this prominent platform around masculinity. I was speaking all over the country, and
Yep.
all of a sudden, Dr. Charles Corper, professor at Loyola, speaks on hypermasculinity and black masculinity, and then I decided to
Yeah.
leave. I left my child behind, and then I had to figure out, well, who the hell is Dr. Corper now,
That's the
right?
process.
It's a
Yeah.
pro So walk me through because I'm sure that there are folks out there that have had to leave their child or jobs, or something that they've built or something that they love behind, and they've had to create a new identity. Walk me through that.
Yeah.
What did you have to do, and where are you in this journey? Because you might not be there.
Yeah. I don't think I'm completely out of it yet. I think I'm still in the process, but I think I'm on the tail end of it. But yeah, the journey for me, Charles, was just, as I alluded to earlier, was just pausing. I had to just stop. I didn't want to sunset the organization and then just hurry up and let money or finances be the driver of my next decision. I had a lot to process, trials and errors, internal turbulence with the organization. Like we've dealt with a lot. I've dealt with a lot on a personal level. And, like you said, man, I had to, and I'm still going through this process. I had to really figure out like who is Larry Irvin away from the thing. Over 10, 12 years, like you said, my name has become synonymous with Brothers in Power to Teach. We've been platformed right on a global, on global stages, national stages, and my identity, became Brothers in Power to Teach. And I told myself I subscribed to that narrative of like Larry and Brothers in Power to Teach are one and the same. And I think a lot of leaders can make that mistake,
Yeah.
because you're not your work, and it's difficult
Mm.
to sometimes find that degree of separation from identity and work, but it's a must, because I think I've seen way too many leaders. I think about Cindy Wynn. I think about Kim Delosa, right,
Yeah.
from our Kellogg classes, and just knowing their stories and being friends with them, and them telling me like, and seeing, Kim, having her health issues,
Mhm.
with just giving her all to this cause. Cindy, having her health issues, with just giving their all to this mission, or to this thing, or to this organization. And I'm grateful to have those examples to look at. But that's what happens, Charles. The work becomes you. You sell yourself this narrative that it's by any means necessary, and you become subconsciously like this sacrificial lamb. And your health, your family, your relationships, your social life, everything becomes secondary, or it did for me. Everything becomes secondary. And it's not sustainable, Charles. It's not sustainable. It's just not. Because there is a human element to leadership. And you can't pour from a cup that has nothing in it.
Right.
And you have to remain, you have to make sure the human. I had to make sure Larry Irvin was well, Charles. And it's just not fun doing the work from a place of survival, and not from a place of wellness. And that's the last, I'm gonna say, even with Mackenzie Money, the Today Show, TED Talks, in a lot of aspects, I was in survival mode.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and
And
it
I
hurts because
appreciate
I
you
still
sharing
produce.
that.
I produce in survival mode, which is not like, I produce great things in survival mode, but it's just not sustainable.
Yeah, and Larry, I appreciate that because on the outside, here's the thing: on the outside, people can view, you got on your brand high risk CEO. You see this big personality. I don't want to say gregarious because you're not gregarious, but this you can portray this big personality, like you see the social media side of Larry. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and understanding that we build brands around what we want to portray to the world. And folks could see one thing, but telling the story around this now says I'm creating this in survival mode, but underneath there, I'm searching, not drowning, but I'm searching. I'm searching for the next thing, the next, not the next thing, the next iteration of
Yeah.
Larry Irvin. And it feels like that there's a testing out of things, which is, I think, is a good thing. Because if you remember when we were children, what did we do, Larry? We tested.
Yeah.
We tested. You think of adolescence, and
Yep.
one day you had on the ones, and and they look good, but you're like, oh, I might try on the J. I might try on the J's. Oh, that feels good. I like the way that this smells. And let me tell y'all, look, Larry Irvin is one of the best smelling people. Look, always got something fresh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but it feels like almost like Larry Irvin is going back to this adolescent phase of his life where you're testing out to see what feels warm and cozy and comfortable for you at this juncture. Because you're right, like for 12 years, Larry Irvin Brothers in Power to Teach, and now it's like, who? When I walk down the streets, wait a minute, oh hey, there's Larry.
Yeah.
What's Larry doing now?
What's
You
Larry
know?
doing that? Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
Larry doing? Oh, well, he ain't doing Brothers in Power to Teach no more. Like, what's up? But I see
Yeah.
him on social media. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay
It
to
is.
it's okay to test out
It
this
is.
next iteration and next version. And the last thing I'll say is that I don't know if you've read Mel Robbins' Let Them Theory.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, because oftentimes I
I need to
think,
check it.
yeah, I think, and because I think as black male leaders, when we ascend so far, we're still listening to the noise. We're
Yeah.
still wondering what folks are saying, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still wondering,
Absolutely.
like, yeah. And
Absolutely,
then,
Joe.
yeah, and then we ascend, and then there's some sort of event, and then we come back down, and we're like, you still wonder, well, what are they saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, but what she's saying is let them talk, let them question,
You
let
have
them
to.
be.
You have to.
But the second side of this is that let you do what you need to do while those folks are talking or doing whatever, because this is you. And if if you've known the great stories of leaderships, they go up and down. They create new versions of themselves.
You have to recreate.
You
You have to
have to,
constantly recreate.
yeah. They create new versions of themselves, and all of a sudden, oh, guess what Larry Irvin's doing? Did you hear about
Yep.
this?
Yeah.
And Larry Irvin didn't give a damn about what you were thinking anyway.
Yeah.
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 So I love that you have been able to sit still. What have you found about yourself in your stillness?
Whew. Uh Man, that's a multifaceted, multi-layered answer. I think to be as concise as possible. I found that one what we just said, like there's always that seasons change.
Mhm.
Seasons change. We tell ourselves narratives, so we tell ourselves stories, man. And I do that a lot. I tell myself stories. I put things in my head. That may not always be reality.
That's
You
correct.
know,
That's correct.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's what I found out about. I think we all have a tendency to do this in our own way, but I am a storyteller, Charles, and I think
Yeah.
my biggest audience is myself,
Mm.
and the stories that I tell
Wow.
myself.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and I think that's what I found out. So I'm just really trying to. I'm coming out of this stillness, but like I said, I took the second half of the year pretty much off. And I broke down, like literally broke down my life, Charles, in full transparency. Like I moved. I moved in with my pop, got rid of my condo, moved in with my father. To drop expenses for me in this transition period while I figured things out because I didn't want to be pressured by uh
Love that.
finance.
I
I
love
didn't
that.
want to
I
be
love
pressured by
that.
that. And if I would have just, if I would have stayed, in the condo and all that and, paying high rent and, with all these bills, I think that would have forced my decisions, man, my decision making, and it really would have tarnished some of the clarity. So I just broke everything down, man, and just really wanted to get simple and small for a season and get clarity. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway from me, man. Is like I can tell myself a lot of stories sometimes that just may not be true.
Yeah. Larry, I love that because it takes courage to do the things to reset. It's easy to keep the floss. It's easy to keep the
Yep.
condo, the cars, the suits,
Yeah.
all the things that were part of the Larry Irvin Brothers in Power to teach identity that you had
Yeah.
created.
Yeah.
But in this next season, right, it's almost like I gotta go back to basics.
Back to the
I
basics.
got I gotta I gotta go back to basics. And one of the things that I think we do when we've extended, so I've got to keep the status, right? I've got to move quickly into the next thing. People do this in a variety of ways in their life. Relationship ends, they jump to the next thing instead of
Yeah. We
resetting.
don't show that. We don't want to show that vulnerability. We don't
You
want to
don't
show
want to
that like,
show that. What do you wait? Oh, Larry moved back in with his dad.
yeah,
I'm gonna let you talk while I reset, and I don't give a damn about what you're talking about.
yeah. I
Um,
don't care, man. Yeah.
yeah, but it's I love the beauty in one telling the story that you could move back into safety. I'm gonna make the assumption that moving back in with your dad is comforted, it's home, you
Yep.
know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's home. It gives you a safety net to then prepare. If you
And
think
think
about
clearly.
Yeah, and think clearly because if you can make the best decision in your life when there are no distractions, there's no noise. I don't gotta pay this high condo bill. You know what I'm saying? I can
Yeah.
save money. I don't have to jump so fast
At any
into the next
opportunity. Yeah.
exactly, and think of the beauty of that. My revolution is to gain clarity for the next thing, you know?
That's what I'm doing,
N
Charles. That's
Right.
that's what we're doing.
That's it. My revolution is to garner the clarity that is needed to move precipitously into the next phase of my life. And this is what that entails. I am letting go. I'm revolting from the high notes and bills, and I'm evolving into making sure that I am financially sound and savvy so I am not distracted. Right, think about that. That story is beautiful, Larry, and if nobody's
Yeah.
told you that, it takes courage to move into this next space and what you're doing. We talked last week, um, for a few minutes, and I want you to detail something because being a CEO is different. It's different. Would you move back into the CEO role? And if not, why? And if so, what would you do differently?
Ooh. Uh yeah, that's a great question. Would I move back into the CEO seat? I think my answer would be yes. But just not at this moment. I think it would be yes. I think, at some point I can't say when, maybe a year, 2 years. I just think I need a period uh to not carry so heavy of a burden,
Yeah.
Charles. So I think right now in this season, I've started the consultancy. I'm still doing my public speaking. Just got back from LA doing a Black male educator panel with Knowledge Con, and I got keynotes coming in left and right. I'll be speaking at colleges and universities second quarter of the
Wonderful.
year.
Congratulations, brother.
Yeah, so that's going to sustain me. The consultancy is going to sustain me, and I got friends, and who going to who's been offering work and contracting opportunities. So that's going to be fine, man. But I don't know right now, do I want to just jump back into that figurehead role? But I think I will return to it. I do like leadership, Charles. I like being in
Yeah.
front.
Yeah.
I like managing. I like being with teams. I like giving direction. I like being a visionary. I like creating culture. in professional spaces. So all of those things I think I'm really good at, and I think I will return to. What I'll do different. Oh, I think my assessment of who I allow around me
Mm,
would be very different. I think a mistake that I made, Charles, with Brothers in Power to Teach, is that I think sometimes I prioritize safety and protection, for probably for good reason. Safety and protection, as far as making the assessment and the dispositions of the folks that I wanted around me, as far as staff. I prioritize like familiarity and that culture versus uh, uh, performance,
yeah, yeah.
if that makes sense. So I
Oh,
like
it
my like
makes a
just
lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
yeah. So I like with just having so much white noise around me and the internal strifes, and not to get into all of it, but like there's just a lot that was going on internally around Brothers in Power to Teach. Um, from a board standpoint, I had attention with my board. I had attention with my co-founder,
Yeah,
Christina Jones, and those things were nasty, and took a major toll on me mentally, and it just made me really look at. I think it directly affected my hiring process and the lens from which I was looking at. I got to the point I was just so shell shocked and scared. Um, Hiring people I leaned into hiring people who felt good versus hiring people who are going to execute at a high level.
yeah, yeah. Look, as I say on my team, and they hate it all the time, but I say it. Look, hire slow, fire fast. You
Hmm.
know, and culture is everything. You skew
Yeah,
towards culture, and you can look. You skew towards culture, and then you can build performance. Like, look, look. Give me a B plus player, I can turn them into an A
you can
player.
turn into a yeah,
Yeah, who was
yeah,
a culture builder, someone who
yeah,
believes in the culture and the mission and the values, the hard worker. But you give me an A plus performer who is destroyer of culture, and
culture.
you got to go. You
Yeah,
got to go. The winningest teams, the winningest coaches believe culture is everything. It is.
it,
People have to want to
it,
come to work every day. They believe in the
they have
mission
to.
and values, and they want to perform, and they want to learn and grow. I will say this all the time. The best places I've ever worked is Camelback Ventures,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Aaron and I didn't always agree, but I believed in his vision. I
yeah,
believed in the mission and vision of Camelback. I
yeah.
lived out our values, and the community of people that look, even today, that I still work with Camelback Ventures, and I left crazy almost 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. That says everything, and the respect that I have for Aaron Walker and for what he
Yep.
was building, right? You think about it,
Yeah.
you spoke about him earlier, but
Yeah.
Aaron Walker, and literally at the time, a young leader, late 30s,
Very.
thinking about Camelback
Yep.
Vision and the impact. 10 years, this is the 11th year of Camelback,
Yep.
and the impact that it has had on people, and people stay, you know what I'm saying? People wanted to be there, like, wanted to be with Camelback, and largely because of the culture that we had. Were we perfect? No,
No.
Larry,
Yeah.
but I would rather take 90% perfection than a culture that breeds disdain and
Yeah.
mistrust and backstabbing any day, because that
Yeah.
means we can work towards that 10%. But if you're starting at 30%, you got a long way to go, Larry.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. One of the things that and I appreciate you saying I would go back into the CEO suite and this is what I would do differently. I appreciate that. It is interesting for me, and I've mentioned this to you, is that I enjoy being the number two.
Yeah.
I it's the
Yeah.
same, but for some of the same reason you said. I love building culture. Like,
Yeah.
I was on a call before this with my team, and this morning we had a bit of a fire, and it was on me. I took responsibility for the fire, but I was like, I'm gonna create this fire because we need to create it and it needs to be put out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, I created the fire and I put the fire. Well, the fire is created, I didn't pay attention to the fire long enough. And then I was like, oh, the fire is going to escalate even more if I don't put some things
Yeah.
in place to de-escalate the fire. And so, but then I got on the call and said, look, I want to apologize because I've been so wrapped up with certain things that I missed this. So one, good leaders take the opportunity to say, this is my problem. And here's some solutions. Now you all think about the solutions and come back to me.
Yeah.
But we were on a great call, and I was like, oh, wow, this feels really, really good because,
Yeah.
it feels really good. I like building culture. I like building
Yeah.
process. I like
Yep.
building programs. But at the end of the day, Larry, as my father would say, the CEO has to meet the mule every day. And that's what my dad would say. I gotta go meet that mule. Meant for
Yeah.
him, he had to go stand in front of the firing line sometimes. He had to do the
Yeah.
hardest.
Definitely.
Right. The mule does the hardest work. I gotta go meet that mule
Yeah.
because yeah, we about to plow the fields. The CEO is about the one who plows those fields. And those fields typically are those financial fields. And
Yep.
particularly for a nonprofit exec like yourself, you're plowing and plowing and plowing and plowing. And
Yeah.
sometimes, right, those seeds take a long time to flourish, Larry Irvin.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, a long
Yes,
time.
sir.
Yeah, and it takes a lot to be a nonprofit or a for-profit CEO. And I applaud you for stepping into the fire because that's what leadership
Yeah.
is about. You have to
That's
step
what
in
it
the
is.
fire day in and day out. And
That's what it
so
is.
yeah, and I like to I like my fire to simmer a little bit. I don't need no I don't need no raging fires, Larry Irvin, let me tell you. Um,
Yeah.
let's get out on this, Larry, as you move into this season.
Yes, sir.
Let's just say 2 years from now, I was like,
Yes,
"Hey,
sir.
Larry, let's do the fifth interview of you
Yeah.
on the What's Your Revolution show.
Yep.
Who are you going to be? What are you doing?"
I'm going to be one of, if not the most recognized voice storyteller of the Black male educator experience. And I'm also going to couple that with uh, being one of the figureheads and being on the forefront of the leadership development conversation as well. Um, that's where I'll be.
Yeah. We gotta keep talking about this black male educator experience. I think
Absolutely.
it's pertinent, and we love our
Yeah.
coaches. Now, I coach baseball. We love our coaches, but they can't
Yeah.
be the only black men we talk about when it comes to education. They just
Yeah. We need
yeah,
we want to continue to push this conversation around Black men being seen in K-12 as intellectual leads, not
as
just
in
disciplinaries and
oh, I
coaches.
love that. Yes, that's right. As intellectual leads, you know.
Yeah. Not just
Yeah,
disciplinaries and coaches.
right. Exactly. When they can easily say, "Let me tell you what nefarious means."
Yeah.
Hopeless. Dichotomous. Ancillary.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. All
yeah.
those SAT words. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, Larry, as you know, we've been friends a long time, man. You think about
Yeah, man.
man, I haven't even said it. Shout out to the Kellogg Foundation. You
Shouts to
imagine
Kellogg, man.
Cal
Definitely.
Kellogg it brought some good folks together.
It did.
It brought
Amazing people.
amazing people together. And you think about it, that was 2014. It is 2026.
Yeah,
My God, can you imagine 12 years ago? And it's
man,
been
I still remember.
9 years since it ended. That's crazy. That's
Man, it
crazy to
is.
me.
It is when you think about it, man. It is, man. It's been a journey. It's been a journey, man.
It's been a journey, man.
Yeah.
And this doesn't happen without Kellogg. The What's a
Period.
Revolution show doesn't happen.
Period.
Like the backing, the ability to say, okay, this is this is the fruit of my project. This show.
That's crazy, man.
That's crazy.
That's crazy
Yeah,
to
exactly.
look back at it like that, man. And yeah, I think we both can attest to what Kellogg. I know for me, Kellogg, I wouldn't be here without Kellogg. From a development standpoint. Just being in the room with the
Yeah,
Dr. Charleses,
yeah.
the Gregs, the Cindy Wins, the Keisha Browns, like the list goes on, the Lynetta Gilberts, like just being in the room with those folks, put the batter in my back.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah,
for me to
yeah,
go out
yeah,
and be
yeah.
great, man. Yeah.
I mean, look, I mean, you think about what was it, Shaka Senghor was in our class.
Yeah. Chaka, man. Yeah.
That brother hangs out with Oprah.
With Oprah. Yeah.
He got
Yeah.
married. He married this sister from Chicago.
Yeah.
Uh,
I seen, yeah,
yeah,
I follow Shaka. I
yeah.
follow
I
Shaka.
mean, you
Yeah.
think about you like you said, being in the room with the greats. And,
Yeah.
not only the New Orleans greats, but the greats. Like, you think about the 4 classes and
I know.
what people do. You think about, like, you have a TED Talk. Aisha has a
Yeah.
TED Talk. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, if Kellogg looks back just on that initial class and says, "What are
Yeah.
y'all doing? How are y'all transforming the world?"
Crazy.
Wow. Crazy,
Crazy,
crazy.
man.
Look, let's get out
Definitely.
of here, man. Larry Irvin, recovering CEO, high risk CEO,
High
right?
risk CEO, baby. Yes,
High
sir. Yes,
risk
sir. Yes, sir.
CEO,
Yes.
man. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
get used to it. It's coming. Get used to it, man.
I love it. I love it. Everybody go check him out. But I gotta ask you, what's your revolution?
Yeah. My revolution, Charles, is self-design, man. This next season is all about me designing myself and executing and recreating who Larry Irvin is. High risk is going to equal high reward. And it's time to be rewarded.
Yeah. Hmm. That was beautiful. Self-design. Man,
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Look, yeah, yeah. You're getting a little older, man. I see.
Yeah.
Look. I haven't seen as much. Look,
Yeah.
much
Mine came fast too.
gray in that beard, man.
Yeah.
I've
I like
never
it
seen
though.
it all, but hey, man, look. I'm sure that those who love beards love it.
I'm loving it. And I'll say the responses have been
Yeah,
positive.
yeah, very positive. Look, I remember back in the day, I was like, "I don't know if I like this," and somebody
Yeah.
said as always, somebody said on the street, like, "Man, that beard looks good." I've never shaved it off since. So,
Since yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, I like it, man. I like the
yeah,
distinguished look it's giving me.
that's it, man. That's it. Look, if you see Larry Irvin out in the streets, know that Larry Irving is self-designing this next version of himself, and we look forward to see how this revolution unfolds. And
Yes, sir.
revolutionaries, yeah, look, think about that. Think about what this next iteration of you looks like. What does it
Yeah,
feel like? What are you doing? Who's around you? Who's not around you?
yeah,
Where are you going? And who's going with you? Those are the things that you ask. That's what revolutions are made of. And you wouldn't be watching this show if you weren't revolutionary. So, as I always say, I love you. I love you. I love you. And we will talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.